Welcome to the podcast of course, they make me crazy. We grew up with a bipolar mother addicted to pills who experienced a lot of hardships. We started this podcast to talk about our experiences with you. You can really start to feel lost and trapped in their world, and we're hoping our crazy, sometimes funny stories, living with someone like that, helps you to feel normal, whole, and happy again. If you have little ones around, though, this would be a good time to pop in your headphones. Our discussions are for adults only, please. Hi there, I'm April.
I'm Amanda.
And we are so happy that you're joining us for our third episode of course, they make me crazy. Last time we talked about our grandpa who left his 6 kids and his wife for his gay lover that he met at a nudie beach. And that was shortly after our mom had caught him in bed inside their family home with one of her school boyfriends. Grandpa asked Mom to keep that a secret, and she did. Everyone in the family, though, was shocked when he came out and left them. But Mom, she was even shocked too, knowing what he had done prior. That news really set our mom, her siblings, and our grandmother on a very unstable path. It was really a life changer for all of them. And the news caused our grandpa to really just have a mental meltdown. I mean, God, who wouldn't, right? She packed up her kids and their things, and she moved them to Missouri, where she had a few sisters who were living there. Still do. But Mom stayed behind in Ohio with no one to really help take care of her. She was like 15 and a half, 16. And she became pregnant with me at the time. She had to drop out of school. She got a job while fighting off my alleged abusive biological father. Now, I want to make it clear. I know we said this last episode, but Amanda and I have same mom, different dads. So my biological father. And we also discussed that was the time that Mom really found her super strength powers. And she persevered through that shitstorm she was dealing with. And God really gave her superpowers when she needed them most, and she chose at that time to move forward, thankfully. Now, you'd think that would have been the time that she'd break down, start drinking and popping pills, but she didn't, not yet. Well, really, Mom was never a drinker. She was just a pill popper, right, Mandy?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
When she would run out of her meds towards the end, she would beg Dad to go get liquor, actually.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. But, I never really saw Mom drunk.
No.
I mean, loopy on the meds, but, she was never
No,
one.
Mom was not a drinker.
Yeah, she wasn't at home swigging back beers and wine. We spent much of last episode talking about Grandpa. And so we wanted to continue to share stories about our grandma, who was really not your typical grandma, because we wanted to introduce you to the 2 freaky deaky people that brought Mom into this world. And essentially brought us into this world, I guess you could say, too.
Yep.
Even though we don't really want to admit that. No.
Well.
So, not typical grandma in the fact that she worked in a factory. She had a stash of Playgirl magazines, for God's sakes. She rented porn on VHS tapes, and she didn't cook, she didn't clean, and she didn't bake.
She would buy cupcakes.
She'd buy cupcakes. She'd buy good fast food. She was the bestest grandma ever, actually. She was fun and she was loving, and she really just wanted everybody to be happy. Of course, until she wasn't really happy anymore, and then she kind of bring us all down. She didn't want to have a pity party for one, did she, Mandy?
No, you're right on that.
Yeah. So, once Grandma retired, she kind of fell into a slump. She started to make those around her feel guilty, because we really weren't fulfilling her needs. And anyone like that song, "No One Loves Me, Everybody Hates Me, I guess I'm gonna eat worms and die." Do you remember that song, Mandy?
Yeah, I kind of.
I think it was more so Mom used to sing it. Graham started to kind of take on that mentality for sure. So Grandma moved back to Ohio from Missouri probably when I was about 5 years old or so. So Mom had been on her own for a while. Now remember, she also had my brother. if you listen to episode 2, she had me about 15 and a half, and she had him probably about at 16 and a half or so. So I think what might have sparked that move back was while Grams was visiting us, my biological dad, again, Amanda's got a different dad than I do. My biological dad broke into our apartment and started to attack Mom. And Gramps tried to stop him, but he pushed her down the stairs. Now, Mom calls him our sperm donor. So we're just going to refer to him as that from now on. I like it. We're going to use it. Okay. He apparently was part of some bike gang, like the Hells Angels, or he might have been part of them, or part of some, like, poser gang, who knows. He was a bad dude. Okay. So Mom really couldn't call the police because she says that he was running drugs for some of the police department. And it was a small little police department, small little town. But back then, domestic violence wasn't taken as seriously as it is now. So Grams got an apartment in Sandusky, not far from the small town that we were living in. I don't know why. I don't know why she did this. Well, I do, but I don't. So she moved into a singles apartment, for God's sakes. Yeah, like a singles apartment where, so she could find her a man. No kids were allowed. No problem, though. It did end up being a great cover-up, I guess. Mom secretly moved us into Graham's apartment while the sperm donor was like on a drug run in another state. So we hightailed it. We gathered everything we could, and we beelined it over to Grandma's apartment. So Graham's had a pool in her apartment, and she'd go down there because she was ready to, she was single and ready to mingle. Apparently. What's that?
She would say that often.
She was single and ready to mingle?
Oh, yeah. Grams was single and ready to mingle.
She did. So my brother and I were like two little kids. And, what do little kids want to do most in the world during the summer? They want to freaking swim. It was like torture not being able to go to the pool. So we thought we're going to torture Grams back. So we would stand on the balcony. I think she was like on the 3rd floor or something like that. And we would scream, "Granny, what you doing down there, Granny?" And then, like, when she wasn't paying attention to us, we'd like start to drag our toys across the balcony bars, to make it really loud. And we would giggle. Kids couldn't live there. But we quote, and I'm doing like air quotes with my fingers right now, we were just visiting, right? But so when we would see Grams leave the pool, we'd run into her room and we'd hide underneath her bed covers. And then she'd come running in, she'd tickle us, saying in her pretend hillbilly voice, "Now, listen, you brats, Grams trying to find her a man. Don't you want Grams to try to find her a man, you little brats?" And we would giggle, and, we just had such a good time with her. We loved her. The thing is, though, no, I didn't want Grams to frickin' find a man. Even as a little girl, I needed her there with us. And I knew Mom needed her. We all needed her. Me, my brother, Mom, we were like the 3 musketeers, and we needed a 4th one. So I didn't want any man to be coming near us at that point. And Mandy, when we were talking about this, you were saying that Mom was telling you a story about what our brother and I did.
Oh, yeah. When Grandma had a male visitor come over.
Yeah.
And I guess you two went outside to so-called play. And you pegged the Grandma's male friend's car with rocks. You totally destroyed the whole side of his car. Mom comes downstairs and you guys are caught red-handed, smiling with rocks in your hands, like, this mother effer ain't coming back.
Grandma ain't gonna find her a man if I have anything to do with it. So Graham stayed in Ohio, and the sperm donor, he was in and out of our lives here and there. Okay. So he came back, he'd disappear. But he wasn't the only one wreaking havoc on our lives. So it was the doctor who delivered me. And I like to call him Dr. Feelgood and Whack Job. Mom didn't really like that I called him that, but it is what it is, and in my eyes. And
Yep.
he became Mom's drug dealer, essentially. Now, this doctor had an office in a small little Ohio town. Not sure if it was Clyde, not sure if it was Fremont. And as you know, Mom was dealing with a lot. And so he'd give her really anything she asked for. Back in the 70s and 80s, that is when drug companies were really pushing all sorts of opioids and narcotics and pain meds on these small town doctors. And then the doctors were basically shoveling them out to their patients, which is it caused us really to have the epidemic that we do now. It's just a snowball effect that has continued. So anyways, he really set Mom up for what she thought was a huge success, but failure later on in life.
I remember her going to those appointments. I remember when he passed away. I remember when she started to go to his brother after that. I mean, that man gave her so much medication. When I was a teenager, I literally could open the cabinet and pick a Soma pill, a Vicodin, a Percocet, Klonopin, a Valium, a Xanax. Literally, my mother had every pill possible that somebody would want. And I don't know how he got away with writing all that medication like that, but he did.
I mean, we would move around a lot, and she would literally drive home to go to her doctor's appointments.
I remember that.
Drive from Williamsburg, Virginia, to make sure that she went to see this doctor. And so Grandma started going to him too. And I don't think Grandma was taking as much as Mom, but she definitely had her fair share. So for a while, whatever he was giving them, it was getting them both through life. Mom was able to get so she was working at a truck stop cleaning toilets for the longest time. And when Grams came back a couple years later, Mom got a job as a waitress at Sawmill Creek Resort. And that's a pretty hoity-toity resort, at least it was back in the day. And then Grams started working at Ford. Well, Sawmill's where our mom met Amanda's dad, and they got married, and they stayed together for almost 30 years, right, Amanda, until she passed away?
Yeah.
She passed away 3 years ago. So we're going to have to jump several years to get more into Graham. So we're going to kind of skip over some years. But our dad, I refer to Amanda's dad as mine because he's the one who raised me, but our dad worked in the hotel restaurant business. So we had to move around a lot. And then finally in my junior high year, I was tired of being the new girl and having to make new friends all over again. Going into the cafeteria and being like, oh my God, who am I going to sit with later in life? I'm still friends with those people. So it's kind of nice when I go into different towns. I always have friends I can go see, but I was tired of it. So I moved in with Grandma. She'd bought a little condo in front of the Huron High School, which is where I graduated from. And Grams was still working at Ford Factory in Sandusky. So her alarm would go off at 2 a.m. most days, okay? Graham could sleep through a freaking freight train coming out.
Oh my God, that woman could sleep. Nothing would wake her.
Nothing, horns blowing. I'd have to shake the crap out of her to get her up. So I'd run in there and be like, Grandma, shake her, get your ass up. And honestly, I don't know how she went to work before I moved in.
It's she fell asleep on the phone with a psychic and had a $3,000 bill before. Are
you kidding me? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, she would call psychic hotlines. And it was when she had that little house in Sandusky, and she fell asleep on it, and the lady never hung up the phone so she could get all that damn money. Or her credit card got charged. Remember, you have to use credit cards back then.
Oh, I don't know. I never called a psychic over the phone.
I didn't either, but I think you had to have a credit card or something. I don't know if they charged your phone. I don't know, but yeah, Grandma slept.
She's wondering where her man is.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes, that's what it was. Because I'd open the family Bible and she would be asking her guardian angel to please send her a man and to win the lottery.
I know. I always say if you and I ever win the lottery, it's just making up for grandma of whatever she put into it.
Yep.
Like Joel Osteen always says, whatever your family prior gave into, God and the Lord and the universe, it's now coming back on you and you're reaping, the benefits of it. I'm like, oh God, I hope that's true because grandma has spent a lot of money on the lottery and
Yes. Like when, yes, her drawers were filled with those tickets.
they were filled. So, okay. So she'd wake up super early. Not really because she had to go into work at a crazy hour. Well, she did have the early shift. She had to make sure that her t-shirts and her jeans were ironed.
Super weird. It bothered me because she'd asked me to do it.
Yes, she had to freaking iron her jeans. And then here's the kicker of it. They were normally stretchy jeans. But
yeah, they weren't regular jeans.
Yeah, they were stretchy, but they're not stretchy from the knee down. So she needed to have that big tight crease going from her knee to the ankle. It was a necessity. And then Amanda, didn't you say she wanted you to iron her girdle one day?
Yeah, it was weird. Like she never asked me to iron them before, but she always wore girdles and she wanted me to iron it. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to iron this? But I mean, I did.
God, I love that woman. So I don't know if you know what the girdle is, but like, back in the day, grandma was kind of like a little Humpty Dumpty-ish, right? So she had a little belly, like a belly, and then she had skinny legs. And so she would wear the girdle, and that was to hold her belly in. She did have a nice set of tatas, though. She really did. So it was so funny because when I would move into her, move in with her, we would just pee with the door open because we're family, right? So we would never number two with the door open, but we'd certainly pee with the door open. And then she'd be like hovering over the toilet trying to button the buttons on the bottom, and I'd be like, Graham, stop playing with your monkey in front of me. And she's like, I'm not playing with my monkey. So monkey's what we call it down there. Anyways, ironing her clothes is super important to her. And so I don't know why she couldn't just iron them before she went to bed at night, but whatever. It drove Amanda batshit crazy. It drove me batshit crazy, but she cared. And that means a lot, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, she took pride in her appearance.
Yes, she did. And she was a very beautiful lady. And she'd have to make sure her foundation, her blue eyeshadow, and her mascara were perfectly applied, and that her hair was curled, their lunch was packed, and then she had to make coffee to go. So she had a lot going on in the morning. Even with all that work, Grams never brought home any boyfriends. I never got to meet one single boyfriend. She was very hush-hush. You never met one either, right, Amanda?
Never.
So mom came to visit. Grandma was taking a nap, and mom's like, "Hey, did you hear Grandma got busy in the back seat of her boss's truck?" And I was like, "Gross." I didn't even know she liked her boss. Grandma never talked about dudes. The only thing she'd ever say was, "I need to find a man,"
Yeah.
Never talked about anything. And you're probably thinking, no wonder why she got all gussied up for work. But no, I promise you that was just her. It didn't matter where she was going. It was an entire process that needed to be done. I started to giggle and I was like, oh my God, Mom, they caught her in the parking lot. She said, yeah, a police officer had to knocked on the window and told them to move along. And I was like, well, God, thank God she's getting it from someone,
Right.
But apparently he was married, and that's why he didn't come around very often. But Graham said she had a dirty, flirty side for sure. And I don't know if she was just that way, or if she got it from working in the factory, because they were just a bunch of jokesters, mostly men there. And she'd come home and she'd tell us all these dirty jokes, that she learned that day. Like one day she came home from work and she plopped down on the couch and she's like, hey, hun, will you get me a cigarette lighter out of my purse and bring it to me? I'm too tired to get up. And I was like, okay. So I did what she asked. I pulled this lighter out and it's like a man shaped like a cowboy. Okay. or a lighter shaped like a cowboy. And I was like looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is strange. This is an interesting lighter, Grandma. And so I pulled it back and I flicked it, my thumb, and the flames came shooting out between the dude's legs.
Oh my God.
So the flames were supposed to be his pecker. And
Oh my God.
she started laughing. She's like, that's my new man.
I don't doubt it. That's awesome. Her actual, remember her body pillow? That was her man too. We weren't allowed to touch her man, and that was her body pillow.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And I was like, Grams, I'm just going to go put your new man in the junk drawer in case you need to light him up later, So I threw the lighter in the drawer, crammed in with 1,000 other things she never used. And so Grandma's house, always messy. Mom would come over to clean it. I'd have to clean it. So she had dirty dishes piled up in the sink, fast food boxes scattered all over, kitchen garbage. She never freaking took out the kitchen garbage. It was always overflowing. So you didn't really walk into Grandma's house, smell homemade chicken noodle soup cooking on the stove and a fresh pie in the oven either. She just, she'd get home from work. She'd walk through the door and say, okay, what you want for dinner? McDonald's, Burger King, or you just want to order Chinese or pizza. She had boxes of unopened mail, just shoved in her closets, shoved in her drawer, shoved underneath her bed, just boxes of unopened mail. And I'd ask her pretty much weekly, Grams, why don't you just open it and throw it away? A lot of it was junk mail. Literally, you could tell just from looking at it that it was junk mail. And she would just shrug her shoulders and be like, oh, I'll get it to it one of these days. And I think that's why I have such a bad reaction to clutter. Now, I mean, it stresses. I hate clutter. It stresses. I have a bad reaction inside my soul when it's around me.
I'm the same way. Yes, Dylan. I get crazy if dishes
Yeah.
pile up and garbage cans overflow.
And my other half, Dennis, with his receipts and his, same thing, mail. He gets so much mail. So anyways, so I couldn't take it anymore. And one day I just made a huge pot of coffee and was drinking it and started just to clean out everything. She was sleeping. So I was hell bent on decluttering the house. And so when I opened the doors of the cabinets on the opposite side of each couch, a bunch of Playgirl magazines spilled out. I don't know. We didn't open those. We didn't have any really reason to open those before.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go Grandma.
God, these naked men with penises the size of the width of a freaking telephone hand receiver, those old school telephone hand receivers.
Oh yeah.
if you don't remember what those are, Google for images. And that was just life with Grandma. It was always something. One Friday night, my bestie and I, we didn't feel like, hanging out with the hooligans, our hooligan friends. So we went back to Graham's condo early because she said, oh, hey, before we left, she's like, I rented some movies. I'm going to order a pizza. And so we're like, oh, when we were out, I was like, let's just go back to Grandma's, get some pizza, whatever. So we get home and we were kind of bummed because she had already gone to bed. So we microwaved the cold pizza and we popped in the VHS tapes. Yeah, this was back in the day when we had VHS tapes. And she said that she had rented When Harry Met Sally. But that is not what Graham's rented. We quickly realized it was When Harry Does Sally.
Oh my God.
Teresa and I curl up on the couch. That was my bestie back in the day for we're getting ready for a 2-hour love comedy. And instead we sat there stunned, staring at the television in silence and probably in disbelief. And Teresa was laughing. She's like, we're going to have to give Good Times Grams a piece of our mind in the morning.
I will.
Yeah, I was like, so we turned on Golden Girls, which is a staple show in our family. We watch it all the time, still do. And we're finishing up our pizza and we called it a night. And I'm like, oh yeah, she's going to get it in the morning. And it's not going to be the kind of get she's been hoping for. Next morning, we wake up and we start giving Grams a hard time. The big smile. I stroll into the kitchen while she's making coffee. And I'm like, well, good morning. Good time, Grandma. And she's like, looks at me, and Therese is yelling from the bed. She didn't want to get up yet. And she's like, "You dirty birdie, Grams." Our condo is super small. It only had like 2 bedrooms. It was a single floor. So, and she's like, "What are you guys doing? Leave your poor old grandma alone. What are you talking about?" And I was like, you know what you did last night. And so she's like, "I did not." And I said, "You did not rent when Harry met Sally. You rented." And I said, I stopped. I said, "Did you go through the swinging glass door, just swinging doors in the back of the store?" And she said, "I might have. I didn't have my glasses on. I don't remember."
Oh my God.
I was like, "Oh God, Grandma." Sadly, though, she never did find her a man. She found plenty of them,
Mm-hmm.
but not the one after Grandpa. And there's no doubt in my mind that that definitely killed a part of her soul when that all went down.
Yeah.
So, I don't think she ever really recovered from that. She certainly did try. And honestly, Amanda, do you think Grandma was ever really looking for something serious?
I don't know because she didn't put a lot of effort into it as far as I could tell.
Right.
Like,
She
but
talked about it a lot, but
yeah, but maybe she just didn't want us to know. Maybe she was hurting that bad, and then she wanted that bad.
shortly after I graduated high school, I moved out, and I got my own apartment in downtown Cleveland, and worked, and then started to go to school. And then Grams retired from Ford shortly after that, which probably was not the best decision for her. It was probably too soon, and that was the time that she and Mom really started to feed off of each other. Mom wasn't working either, and they just really sit around all day. They would drink Diet Coke, they'd smoke, they'd swap pills, they slept, and if one ran out of something, like some kind of pill, then they'd ask the other for it. And then they started accusing each other of stealing pills,
Oh my
right?
God, it was insane. Yes, they'd swap them back and forth, and then all of a sudden they're both out, and
So Grams really became reliant on Mom pretty much for everything. They were each other's company. They were each other's best friends, and really started at a point to put a strain on Mom's marriage, because our dad would have to come home and not just see one of them sleeping on the couch or sitting up smoking, but now he had to come home to 2 of them.
yeah. Grams would come and only supposed to stay for a week, and she'd end up being there a month. And once it hit that month mark, Dad, like you said, was losing his shit.
Yeah, neither one of them. And they just, because they were so miserable, they wanted everybody else to be miserable. But I just felt guilty about the way they were living. I felt guilty about being mad at them a lot. And people living with severe depression, bipolar, anxiety, sometimes they're so consumed with their own sadness that they become mentally abusive to the people who love them most.
Oh, Mom would make me feel like total crap.
Yeah. Dealt with family members like that. You're dealing with them now. Do not let them get the best of you, because they're going to be miserable no matter what you do for them. So earlier, Amanda touched on what she found in Mom's medicine cabinet. That was before, of course, the family was forced to lock Mom's meds up. Mom was the first person to hand Amanda a pill. And not that Amanda's blaming anything on Mom, but then that led Amanda down a long, dark path to making some really bad choices
Yeah.
that you're still dealing with today.
Mhm. Yep.
So next episode, we're going to go into Mom's like full-blown manic episodes. Maybe that could kind of help you if you're dealing with somebody that does the same thing, kind of how we coped with that or how we dealt with it. Plus, Amanda's going to share some of her struggles and really just how she's still coping. Those of us living with people suffering from mental illness have a lot to deal with too. They're not the only ones hurting, and we carry their burdens because we love them. We're not social workers and don't have professional training. We're just 2 girls who have lived through some things too. We'd love to hear from you. Let's build a community. Email us at ofcoursetheymakemecrazy@gmail.com.